Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, an Eastern Kentucky man is accused of making threats to kill deputies and a Postal Service employee. And Ford is calling it a Model T moment for Louisville, and it could mean thousands of new jobs.
After seeing a nice weekend throughout Eastern Kentucky, we find ourselves looking at rain and storm chances again. Details coming up.
Dedicated to Southern and Eastern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. We have new details after a man threatened to kill deputies and a U.S. Postal Service worker. The Floyd County Sheriff says this man, Jonathan Howell, made threats in person and on social media. Officials say Howell is charged with 2 counts of terroristic threatening along with resisting arrest. Ariana Mint spoke with the sheriff about what happened.
A man behind bars after threatening to kill multiple people. The Floyd County Sheriff's Office says Jonathan Howell is being charged with 2 counts of terroristic threatening, along with resisting arrest, among others. The Floyd County Sheriff's Office and the Prestonsburg Police Department arrested Howell in the Oxshire community Saturday. Sheriff John Hunt says this all started Friday at the post office in town when Howell came in contact with an employee over an incident that happened earlier in the day.
Where John Howell had left a vehicle parked in the parking lot, blocking some parking spots.
It was after this happened. Authorities say Howell got a phone call from the post office for him to move his car.
When he does come, he's irate, cussing and threatening to burn the postal worker's house down, making threats to do other things. So that quickly got out of hand. Later in that business day, the federal postal inspector, he makes contact with Mr. Howell, because the postal worker had informed the postal inspector of the issue that had happened that day. So the postal inspector makes contact with Mr. Howell on the phone. He makes threatening gestures and cusses toward the postal inspector himself.
Sheriff Hunt says the search for Howell ensued that night, but they were unable to find him.
And then earlier Saturday morning, it starts over, and Mr. Howell goes to, he sends more threatening Facebook or phone messages to the postal worker, making some threats. He goes to Facebook, making some serious threats toward the postal worker, plus sheriff's office. For whatever reason, he brought them in the picture. But
Sheriff Hunt says they were able to get an arrest warrant, find Howell, and take him into custody. Ariana Mintz, WSAZ, Floyd County.
Howell was expected to appear in court today. The Boyd County Detention Center announced on Facebook Sunday that one of their deputies is recovering after a medically induced coma. The Boyd County jailer says it was due to substance exposure while doing routine intake at the jail. He was hospitalized and suffered respiratory failure, but then resuscitated. The substance in question is still being tested at a state laboratory. A major announcement from Ford this morning that's bringing jobs and a major investment to Louisville's assembly plant. They introduced the Ford Universal EV Production System and Ford Universal EV Platform. It's a brand new way to build electric vehicles in America. Ford has redesigned the assembly line to cut costs and make production more efficient. It was called a Model T moment. Of course, you're seeing some old file video there. $1.9 billion will be invested into the plant to upgrade and modernize the equipment and technology. The move is also bringing 2,200 jobs.
This universal electric platform is Ford's bet on the future, and they're counting on Kentucky workers to make it a reality. So, Jim, I want to thank you and Ford for helping us achieve this unprecedented economic success. It takes a lot of guts and a lot of trust to make these types of generational investments.
The new manufacturing process will be a platform to build an all-new, yet-to-be-unveiled 4-door mid-size electric pickup truck. Ford executives say that truck will be more spacious, faster than the Mustang, and will have a starting price of $30,000. Ford's presence in Louisville dates back to 1913 when the Model T first rolled off the production line. All regional driver's license appointments were canceled today due to a statewide system outage. The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet says it will notify those whose appointments were canceled about when they can reschedule. A social media post also says appointment holders and walk-ins were given renewal forms, passes to return for expedited service, or codes to renew online. The post did not address the status of the system for tomorrow. Well, we're starting the work week much like we will probably end it. Highs in the mid to upper 80s with a chance of storms. First Alert meteorologist Eric Dean has our first look at the forecast. Eric?
You know, Steve, I'm beginning to sound like a broken record. It seems like every day we've been talking about storm chances and temperatures above normal. And that's where we are right now. 86 is the temperature near Whitley City. Feels like 88. We fly over to Rowan County near Moorhead. 88 with a feels like temperature of 91. Last but not least, Owsley County near Boonville. Good evening to you. Look at your feels like temperature. 93 degrees. Here's like a live 10-point Doppler radar right now. You're noticing a clean sweep throughout eastern Kentucky. But as we take a look here at the numbers for today, made 87 after winds turn 68, 85, and 66 is where we should be for this time of year. I'll have your complete First Alert forecast coming up in a few minutes. Steve.
All right, Eric, thank you. A Grammy-nominated Kentucky singer is coming home tonight to benefit tornado survivors, and you still have a chance to get tickets. Ann Wilson, who's from Lexington, will headline a fundraising event at the Corbin Arena. It's being put on by the Shepherd Family Foundation and the Appalachian Tornado Relief Fund, with all proceeds going toward survivors. We checked the current get-in price on Ticketmaster, and after fees, the cheapest ticket for one person costs about $27. Tonight's show starts at 7 p.m. We'll have more about this in our next half hour. For the thousands heading back to school this week, their time in the classroom could look a bit different. Legislators passed more than half a dozen new state laws on education. Kristen Kennedy takes a closer look at some of those.
Well, guys, we've got quite a few state laws taking effect this school year. One that got a lot of support in Frankfort, House Bill 208. That is the bill banning the use of cell phones in classrooms. Each district must create its own policies. In Fayette County, the district will have students put their phones in designated pouches during class. Students can use their phones at lunch and during classroom transitions. Communication between teachers and students is changing. Senate Bill 181 requires teachers to use traceable, school-approved platforms to talk to students. In Fayette County, this means adoption of a new app, Parent Square. Senate Bill 73 made sextortion a felony. It also requires school districts to provide families with information about sexual extortion. This information has to be posted in every school. Sextortion information will be included in bullying and harassment presentations beginning with fourth graders. Another law comes from Senate Bill 19. All school districts are now required to begin the day with a 1 to 2 minute moment of silence. Finally, two changes for elementary school students. Senate Bill 167 requires them to learn cursive. House Bill 240 requires kindergartners and first graders to take an early literacy screening assessment at the end of the year. With a lot of new laws, it is up to district leaders to decide how to implement them. It's best to check with your school if you're unsure how some of the new laws, like the cell phone ban or the moment of silence, will work. Kristen Kennedy, WKYT.
And we've covered a lot of these new laws for you as we follow them through the legislature. If you're curious about one bill in particular, you can do a check of our coverage on WYMT.com. Education Secretary Linda McMahon is kicking off a tour of all 50 states to tout the potential benefits of local decision-making in schools. It comes as the Trump administration pushes to wind down the Department of Education in favor of state-led policy. McMahon's first stop is in Louisiana, where they went from being ranked 50th in fourth grade reading in 2019 to 16th. On Friday, Congressman Andy Barr was in Perry County as he campaigns for U.S. Senate. Barr spoke at an event for primary care centers of eastern Kentucky and also stopped by the station for a taping of Issues and Answers. We discussed a variety of topics, including President Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. Barr shared what he thought made that bill so beautiful.
Think of all the overtime that our sheriff's offices and our paramedics put in. Think of the overtime at the factories. that people put in. No tax on overtime, no tax for those hardworking third shift waitresses and waiters at our restaurants. You tip those hardworking folks, they get no tax on that. That is a promise made and a promise kept by this president.
Barr is hoping to get President Trump's endorsement in the U.S. Senate race. I also asked him about concerns about Medicaid cuts in the big, beautiful bill. You can see the interview tonight at 7 on Issues and Answers here on WYMT. Congressman Barr is supporting President Trump's order to deploy federal forces to patrol the streets of Washington, D.C. to help combat crime and move out the homeless. The president said today is the day Washington, D.C. will be, quote, liberated from what he calls, quote, crime, savagery, filth, and scum. D.C. officials say they have already taken steps to reduce crime. Police data shows violent crime is down 26% there over the last year. Congressman Barr released this statement saying, quote, just like he cleaned up the border, President Trump will clean up D.C. Our capital is overrun with crime, corruption, and homelessness. The chaos in D.C. impacted my team directly when a Kentuckian serving in my office was robbed at gunpoint in broad daylight. We can and must do better. The Louisville Arena Authority is investing more than $13 million in the KFC Yum Center, starting with improvements to the roof. The $250,000 square foot roof will be fully replaced and is expected to be completed in December. Now, this will not impact any U of L games or concerts. However, road closings could pop up. The renovations are part of an improvement project to celebrate the arena's 15th year in operation this October. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, will this winter be as bad as the last one? Let's hope not, but we'll tell you what the Farmer's Almanac is saying.
And I'm just the messenger. Temperatures today, we're in the 80s and 90s. I have some good news somewhere in the forecast. We'll talk about that coming up in a few minutes.